Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Dark World Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for December 2023. We've gotten some new support for the Dark World deck, and it's actually been almost, if not a year, since my last update to the Dark World deck. We've gotten the Gen and Ken monsters from Age of Overlord. We had Dark Corridor back in Duelist Nexus. So I figured an update was due for the deck. This is just a fan favorite deck for so long. It's had so many changes to the deck, including its new fusion monster that we got back from the structure deck. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. We'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the 3 ofs for the Dark World monsters, we run 3 copies of Rainbow Overking of Dark World. You can special summon this card from your graveyard by returning a level 7 or lower Dark World monster you control to the hand. If this card is discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, you can add 1 level 5 or higher Dark World monster from your deck to your hand, except for Rainbow Overking of Dark World. Then if this card was discarded to your hand, from your hand to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower Dark World monster from your deck or graveyard to either field. So it's set up for either some of the Dark World monsters you may want to set up on your opponent's field, depending on the Dark World monster, but also giving you that search power for some of your other cards that we run in the deck. For more of the Dark World specific cards from our deck to our hand, we're also running the 3 copies of Snow on Light of Dark World. If it's discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, if it was discarded from your hand to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, add 1 Dark World card from your deck to your hand, then special summon that target if in any defense. So if it's just discarded by your own card effect, you'll have the search for your Dark World card. So you can add either Gates to the Dark World or any of the other setup cards you need. Sadly, Dark Corridor does not have Dark World in its name, but still a great search and setup card for your other Dark World cards. Also, 3 copies of Genta, Gateman of Dark World. You can only special summon Genta, Gateman of Dark World, once per turn. If this card is discarded to the graveyard, you can add 1 Gates of the Dark World from your deck to your hand. If this card is banished while you control a Dark World card, you can special summon this card. So you have the special summon option for this card, but also being able to discard this card to the graveyard to add a Gates of the Dark World. Just gives you more setup and then frees up your snows to search out some of the other cards you may want to add that are some of the 1-ofs, including our fusion spell for our Dark World Grapha Overlord monster. For the last of the 3 ofs, just running 3 copies of Grapha, Dragon Lord of Dark World. You can special summon this card from your graveyard by returning 1 Dark World monster you control to the hand, except for Grapha, Dragon Lord of Dark World. If this card is discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy that target. Then if this card is discarded from the hand to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect, look at 1 random card in your opponent's hand, and if it was a monster, special summon it to your field. So, once again, going off of your opponent's card effects, which can be done when we have our Overlord of Dark World, but still Grapha is the destruction power, and then just the easy setup by being able to bounce other Dark World cards that we have on the field back to the hand, allowing us to go into even some rank 8 plays with the extra deck if we can set up multiple Graphas on the field, and then getting the attack boost as well thanks to our field spell Gates of Dark World. I also run 2 Silva, Warlord of Dark World. If this card is discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, special summon it. And if it was discarded to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect, your opponent places exactly 2 cards from their hand on the bottom of the deck in any order. So making it so your opponent activates those discard effects makes it all the more powerful, with Silva being able to take away resources from your opponent as well. With the last of the actual Dark World monsters being the 1 Cerule, Guru of Dark World. If it's discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, special summon this card to your opponent's field and defense. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a Dark World card, your opponent discards 1 card. So then this gives you the discard of your Dark World cards as well. Having Cerule appear on your opponent's field, then activating it counts as your opponent's card for the discard effect, so then being able to benefit from the discard with the additional card effects of your Dark World monsters. For some of the other cards we run in the deck, also running 2 Salamander Catalyzer. You can reveal this card and 1 Fiend monster in your hand, special summon 1 of them and discard the other when a monster is destroyed by battle involving your Fiend monster while this card cards in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand. You can only use each effect of Salamander Catalyzer once per turn, so it sets up more of the discard power, just being able to reveal this card and the one other Fiend monster, giving you that additional resource on the field as well, thanks to Catalyzer and its setup, and then add back power. For the new cards, I run the 3 copies of Gen, the Diamond Tiger, and the 1 copy of Ken, the Dragon Warrior. With Gen, once per turn, at the end of the battle phase, return this card from the field to the hand. You can only use each of the following effects of Gen, the Diamond Tiger, once per turn. During your main phase, you can special summon 1 Ken, the Dragon Warrior, from your hand or deck to your opponent's field in defense. If this card is special summoned by the effect of Ken, the Dragon Warrior, discard 1 card. And also, once per turn with Ken, at the end of the battle phase, return this card from the field to the hand. You can only use each of the following effects of Ken, the Dragon Warrior, once per turn. During your main phase, you can special summon 1 Gen, the Diamond Tiger, from your hand or a deck to your opponent's field in defense. If this card is special summoned by the effect of Gen, the Diamond Tiger, your opponent draws 2 cards, then they discard 1. Setting up more of the discard power with these cards, depending on the special summon setup for each one, respectively. We're running the 3 Gen to set up the Ken, but then also being able to just give you the setup of that monster to special summon the additional Gen, depending on which one you open up. And then for the next lineup, we are running a Danger package as well to finish off the monsters. I have the 2 Danger Nessie in here, and then also the 1 Chupacabra, the 1 Mothman, Tsuchinoko, and Jackalope for the Danger lineup. If you wanted to run an additional copy of Nessie, you can take out the Dark World Punishment counter trap that I am running in the trap lineup for an additional copy of Danger Nessie, because the Danger package, while setting up monsters, also just helps in general for your overall plays for your Dark World cards. Moving on now to the spells, I run 3 copies of Gates of Dark World. It's just a once per turn, so a soft once per turn. So if you have multiples of Gates of the Dark World, you can have the search power thanks to your Genta, or the added option of your Snow, being able to add the Dark World cards depending on which one. All Fiend monsters gain 300 attack and defense. You, once per turn, can banish a Fiend monster from your graveyard to discard 1 Fiend monster and draw 1 card. So you have the special summon power if you were to banish the Genta that searched out the Gates of the Dark World to begin with. And then if you open up another one, you can just activate that other Gates of the Dark World and go for the banished discard again, continuing that play, because like I said, it's just a soft once per turn card. I do want to run 3 Dark Corridor. Sadly, I only have the 2 currently, but with this card, you add 1 Dark World monster from your deck to your hand, then discard 1 card. You go and activate 1 Dark Corridor per turn, but still, the discard and search sets up and adds the Dark World monster that you would then just be able to discard off this card, giving you that search and setup of that particular card you may need, or for any of your other searches. I just have Drag Down into the Grave as a placeholder. If you don't have Dark Corridors, you can always swap it out with this card also. And then for some of the one-ofs for the spells, the 1 copy of the Dark World Ascension. This is the Fusion quick play spell. During the main phase, to fusion summon 1 Fiend Fusion monster from your X deck by banishing materials mentioned on it from your field or graveyard. If fusion summoning a Dark World monster this way, you can also discard monsters as material. And during the main phase, if it's in the graveyard, you can add this card to your hand, then discard 1 Dark World monster. So it's the recycle power, and like I said, it's searchable, so that's why we only run the 1 copy. The 1 copy of Dark World Archives to discard a Dark World card. And if you do Dark World monsters you currently control, you can attack it to the level the discarded monster had in its name. So another power boost as well with this card. If the monster whose original type is Fiend is discarded to your body of the hand by the effect of a Dark World card or opponent's card effect, even during damage step, you can discard 1 card and draw 2 cards. So set up with our last just being the 1 copy of Card Destruction to gain additional card effects depending on what we discard off of Card Destruction. For the traps, the 1 copy of the Dark World Punishment. As I mentioned before, this is just a placeholder if you wanted to run a 3rd Nessie to take out for a 3rd spot of that. With the only other trap I thought of in permanence, but really skill drain with the setup you can do with your big boss monsters, and this card just being able to shut down your opponent's cards while you still being able to rely on your discard of your Dark World monsters is way better of a card to rely on. You really don't use life points for much either, so 3 skill drain, just a very annoying card to get over your opponent's cards. And let's face it, if you're playing Dark Worlds, you're definitely playing an annoying deck, so skill drain goes right along with it. Moving on now to the extra deck for our fusion monsters, 2 copies of Grapha, Dragon Overlord of Dark World, needing 1 Grapha, Dragon Lord of Dark World, and 1 Dark Monster. When your opponent activates a monster effect or a normal spell trap card while you have a card in your hand, quick effect, you can activate this effect. The activated effect becomes your opponent discards 1 card, so making it so they just extend your own setup with your Dark World cards. And you're going to use this effect of Grapha once per turn. If a fusion summon card and its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you can special summon 1 of your Grapha, Dragon Lord of Dark World that is banished or in your graveyard, then each player with their hand discards 1 card. So more setup for the card that you use to also summon out Dragon Overlord of Dark World, but it's that setup for your opponent's effects to become discard a card to then just help extend your own plays while taking away from some of your opponent's own. For the Link monsters, the 1 copy of Muttcracker from the Underworld. For the additional setup for your Fiend monsters, the 1 IP Masquerena, the 1 SP Little Knight, the 1 Nightmare Phoenix, the 1 Dark the Dark Charmer, and the 1 Cross Sheep for all of the Link 2 monsters. For the higher linked monsters, the 1 Nightmare Unicorn, the 1 Apollosa, and the 1 Nightmare Griffin for the additional Fiend monster to go into. And for the Xyz monsters, the 1 copy of Abyss Dweller, the 1 copy of Baguska, the 1 copy of Hope Harbinger, and the 1 Zeus to finish off the rest of the Xyz monsters. If you wanted to run an additional rank 8 monster, you can always drop the Abyss Dweller for a copy of number 68 for that additional spot. And then as for some of the go-to plays, as I said before, the setup of a lot of your discard cards is what comes down to what you do with the Dark World deck. So if you open up your Genta, being able to then discard this card to add 1 Gates of the Dark World from your deck to your hand. This will give you your initial search. And then from there, when activating Gates, it all comes down just to what you have for the discard power. If you discard going second against your opponent, you have the Graphopop. If you discard the Snow, you have the initial search to get the 1-of card being your Dark World Ascension Fusion, and then just having to grab more and more of the needed cards for your play. Dark Corridor helps for that additional search power, as I mentioned before as well, depending on what you open, getting able to give you that search. And if you want to keep the cards to discard for the Dark World Ascension to get your Fusion monster and discarding another card, you'll at least have that resource to keep on the field for the discard, depending on the Dark World monster that you summon out. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Like I said, it's been a while since I, updated the Dark Worlds. I think the last time was when the structure deck actually came out, but I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.